for tuning into No Wine in No Time. I'm your host Dave, and today we're exploring the beautiful rosés that come from Tavel, France. So where exactly is Tavel? Tavel is solidly in the center of the southern Rhone wine growing region, and it's right across the Rhone River from Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Tavel got its AOC, or Appellation Tavel Contrôlée, certification in 1936, so one of the first to get that particular certification. And this particular region is so well noted for producing one specific type of wine that it's the only region in all of Rhone totally dedicated to rosés. Now when we look at rosés from this area, they differ quite a bit from rosés in other parts of the world. And let's take Provence as example. Provence is kind of the world standard when it comes to rosés. But when they produce a rosé wine, it's done in a method called direct press. In other words, they take red wine grapes and they press them and they leave the skins in contact with the wine for a short period of time, and then they press and remove the skins. The resultant grape juice is light in color and it has no skin residue. Now when we look at Tavel, they are using a technique called rosé de Saugny, and Saugny in French means to bleed. So what we're actually doing is we're taking red wine grapes and a little bit of white wine grapes, which we'll talk about in just a minute, pressing them together and then bleeding the juice off of the skins. What that does is it gives it a little bit more color, but it allows the skins and resultant juice to be used to make a very full-bodied red wine. Now I said before, reds and whites together. Now normally that's a no-no in the winemaking industry. If you're going to make a rosé, it should be made from red grapes and red grapes only. This is one of the few appellations in the world that does allow a small amount of white wine grapes to be used. However, they have to be co-fermented. In other words, we can't produce Grenache by itself and Syrah by itself and say Claret separately and then combine them later, whites with reds. We have to allow all of that juice to co-ferment together. So, the wine that I brought for you today is really quite special. And when we look at Tavel's history, it really produces wines that aristocrats have loved for centuries. Louis XIV loved Tavel Rosé. All of the Avignon popes loved Tavel Rosé. And in America, Ernest Hemingway, while he certainly drank a lot of different things, most of it being rum, he would only drink Tavel Rosé when he's drinking wine. So why is this so special? It's because of the way it's constructed and how it tastes on the palate. So this particular wine I have today is from Carterès, Domaine de Carterès, and I just really hope you can see the beauty in this particular wine. If we hold it up and take a look through it, the first thing you'll notice is that it's beautifully, deeply pink. Certainly darker than any rosé that you've probably had in your glass in the past. If we look at what's in this particular wine, this one has Grenache, Mourvèdre, Claret, Picpoul Noir, and Syrah. So actually 4 red grapes, 1 white grape, but remember, co-fermented. Let's swirl to liberate some of the aromas. When it comes across the nose, the first thing I think of is chocolate-covered cherries. In a rosé, Dave, that's crazy. But because this is a much more darker, richer style, we're getting a little bit of cocoa powder, a little bit of cherry, almost some strawberry across the nose. Let's go ahead and sip. Across the palate, this particular wine drinks significantly more like a red than it does a rosé or a white. I guarantee you, if you were blindfolded and you taste this wine, you would say, Dave, that's a red wine. So it enters into the palate and it hits you immediately with a beautiful, rich, sweet, dark cherry. And then it fades into a little bit of plum and a little bit of strawberry. Then across mid-palate, that minerality kicks in and we start to taste the spice in the wine. This really tastes very similar to a lighter style Chateauneuf du Pape, and based on its geography, that's not unusual. Very similar grapes, very similar terroir. So a wine like this can accommodate a lot more more robust styles of food in its wine pairings. So things like Hassenpfeffer, like baked rabbit. Think things like maybe lighter pork dishes, very delicious, and maybe even some lighter beef. I know that sounds crazy in a rosé, but a Tavel rosé certainly won't disappoint with that type of food. So I'm going to enjoy a little bit more of this Tavel, and that's all the time we have for today. And I ask that you come back next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.